I've been obsessed with making my videos look like they were shot on film. The grain, the tones, and the texture, it's just absolutely incredible when it's done right. After spending a long time learning how to achieve this look, I want to share with you all the ways that you can get the film look without having to become a professional colorist. Let's dive in. The first and most obvious way is to actually shoot on film and get it processed. But here's the thing. It's super impractical and insanely expensive. So unless you're working on a high budget production, it's almost never worth it. The second and much more accessible way is to do it inside your editing software. I use Premiere, so that's what I'll be showing you. There are 4 key parts to this process, assuming that your footage has already been color corrected for exposure and white balance. First, grade your footage using either Lumetri Colors or a LUT. I'm going to be using a LUT here. Secondly, add halation. This is the reddish-orange halo effect that you often see in footage shot on film. Premiere doesn't have a built-in tool for this, but you can create the effect by adding an adjustment layer set to lighten in blend mode and then applying channel blur to that layer. Play around with the parameters until you get the desired look. Next, add bloom to give that soft, diffused glow around the highlights, which is a classic film look. To achieve this, duplicate your footage, apply Luma Key to isolate the highlights on the top layer, and then add a Gaussian blur. Play around with the parameters in both the Luma Key and the Gaussian blur to find the right balance. And as a finishing touch, add some grain using the noise effect. Here's a quick before and after. Now the third and most practical way to achieve the film look is by using Dehancer, the most widely used film emulation plugin on the market. It works with pretty much every editing software and has quickly become my favorite tool for grading. Keep in mind though, Dehancer isn't exactly a drag and drop plugin that magically polishes your footage. It's just like another tool in your coloring toolkit. Dehancer lets you choose a specific color space or even the exact camera model you're using. It supports pretty much every major manufacturer and model out there, so your footage is interpreted accurately. Dehancer also has a wide selection of film stocks to choose from. Some of my favorites are Cinestill 800T and the Portra 400. If your footage is overexposed, you can use the film compression tool that mimics actual film compression. You can choose from a variety of film prints. I usually go for the Kodak 2383, which just looks really cool. Now here's where Dehancer really shines. Halation, bloom, and film grain. These 3 features are absolute game changers in my opinion. Sometimes I'll turn off everything else and just use these effects on an adjustment layer because they look so damn good. The grain doesn't feel like digital noise, it actually looks like real film grain. And the amount of control you have with the custom parameters makes it so easy to fine-tune each effect. So here's the final shot with all the settings applied, and here's the original. To sum up, here's why I love Dehancer. You get so much control from film stock and compression to vignetting. The flexibility is really a game changer. The selection of film stocks is incredible, whether you want a modern look or if you're going for something more vintage, Dehancer's got you covered. If you're on a budget, Dehancer also sells individual components like film grain and bloom separately. They even have a light version of the plugin. There's even an iPhone app so you can achieve that film look on your phone. It's perfect for quick edits on the go. Of course, there's a few downsides. First, there's quite a learning curve. There's a lot of functionality which can feel overwhelming at first, especially if you're new to color grading, so be prepared for that. Similarly, the user interface could be a little more intuitive. I'd love to see more tooltips to explain what each feature does. It's also a pretty resource-heavy plugin, so if you're working on an older system, it might slow things down a little bit. Lastly, it's not the cheapest option out there, but for what it offers, it's absolutely worth it if you're serious about filmmaking. It's $449 for the full license, but if you're interested, you can use my promo code to get 10% off. I hope you found this video helpful, and comment down any other ways that you grade your footage to look like it was shot on film.